let's move over to the Medicaid expansion aspect of it, because I think a couple of weeks ago, the chair of that committee actually introduced a bill to just repeal Medicaid expansion. You come in today with adding what you would call, I guess, guardrails to Medicaid expansion. Are you guys just trying to take a two-pronged approach here, that if that one doesn't pass, that at least we have some guardrails?
Yeah. So I think kind of the intent is actually to hear the bill that I introduced today first. And basically what this does is it puts in guardrails, like work requirement for able-bodied adults, right? We're just dealing with the expansion population. Right now, 47% of those folks are not currently working. We add for volunteer work. We add for going to school. So, if you have those built into this, the work requirement should not be too difficult to overcome. We have enrollment caps because, when expansion first passed, the promise from the actuaries was it was going to be $400 million budget. It's over 1.1 billion this year. So, the growth of this has been astronomical. And again, we're talking about able-bodied adults here. We're not talking about kids. We're not talking about pregnant women. We're talking about able-bodied adults that there's dignity in work. There's dignity in volunteering. Like, it's better for the soul. It's better for the human experience to be doing something rather than sitting at home scrolling on Instagram. We have improper payment. So currently, through our Medicaid budget, we're at like a 15% improper payment through Medicaid. And that's payments that are going where they shouldn't be going. That's, and you start talking about a $6 billion budget, that's a lot of money that adds up. So we want to get that under control.
And when you say it's going where it shouldn't be going, is this similar to like what we're seeing at the federal level, where it's like they're just approving payments out and they're not really investigating where they're going? I mean, what is this? What do you mean by like what's an example of a payment that shouldn't have gone out?
So generally it has to do with eligibility, right? So somebody who say I'm on Medicaid, I go have a procedure done, the department pays that, but I wasn't eligible for Medicaid. I was never on Medicaid. That's an improper payment. And right now we have a 15% improper payment. And I've heard, not in our state, but around the country, 40% improper payment, right? So you start talking about a $6 billion budget, 15% is a lot of money. And so we're asking just to get that down, right? Let's have checks and balances. And I'm very confident that with the new director at the helm, we're going to be able to do that. All these things, a lot of the opposition will say that these waivers you're never going to get these granted by the federal government. I spoke to two representatives in the White House that said, we want to grant creative, innovative waivers because we want to figure out how to fix Medicaid. And right now it's a very broken system. So, this bill just adds checks and balances. This adds, true accountability where it has not been seen in the past. And so long as we attain all those, it actually saves the state more money than an all-out repeal. And but if we don't, then it would move to repeal Medicaid expansion. Sorry.
Yeah. So and again, this Medicaid expansion came about because of a ballot initiative a number of years ago that promised, it was sold on the belief that it would only cost a little bit or it would cost X amount, and we've seen that balloon 4x, 5x.
Yeah, it's probably closer to 3x. But again, when you're talking $400 million and it's 1.1 billion, that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. Well, then that got printed today, so we'll be able to dive into that bill when it jumps up online. You also had a couple of things yesterday too, but I kind of like where's your heart at right now? What bills are important to you that you're running through that you think may need some more support from the folks watching?
Yeah. One of them. So I had 4 printed today. Another one of them was the 340B drug pricing. So 340B is a large federal program that's about $66 billion. And what 340B does is it takes from the manufacturer the drug cost, and then the health organization will take that money and they're supposed to pass it through to individuals. Well, we know that there's been a lot of corruption within that. And I'm not saying necessarily here in the state, but nationally, there's been a lot of corruption in that where, they're taking these discounted drugs at say $1,000, and then they're making the individual who qualifies for this drug pay cost for it, and they're building more health systems. So this bill would just add transparency there. It would just say, we want to know what those dollars are going towards. And it's hard to argue with transparency. Now, I know in the hearing, it's going to be very hotly contested. I know there's going to be a lot of people that say this is going to be burdensome. This is just transparency of taxpayer dollars that we want to know where the money's going.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
And
No
then
argument for me.
the final one I had today was dealing with mifepristone and mifepristol. So those are abortifacients, and through a public record request at the department through the Medicaid budget, I saw in 2021 there was zero expenditures, 22 zero expenditures, 23,000 or 2023 there was about 126,000, and then 2024 there was almost 700,000 used for that drug. There's very few uses for this drug other than an abortifacient. So like the one example is a very rare disease called Cushing syndrome. And either we've had a massive spike in that, or I do think that we could have some misuse of that. So what the bill did was it moved it to Schedule 4. So now it had to be reported to the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, which will put much more oversight on that, so that we'll actually be able to see what the prescription was for and what we're trying to use that for, because it seems like there could be chemical abortions still happening.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, this is I recall what hearing those drugs, but not really understood what they could be used for. And so what you're saying is that since the fall of Roe v. Wade and the institution of our new laws here in Idaho, that those drugs have been prescribed in a way to kind of mask that, and it looks like that maybe abortions may still be happening in that direction.
That would make what I would be led to believe.
Yeah.
So that's where putting this on Schedule 4 would show we can exactly see what that was for, and if crimes are being committed, we can go after that.
Right. And these are things that are still done through prescription, right? So a doctor prescribes this, you go to a pharmacy and pick this up.
Yep, exactly right. Yeah.
And the prescription doesn't necessarily have to say what it's for.
And when it's not scheduled, there's no oversight of it, right? So moving that to a Schedule 4, now there's oversight, so we can actually look into that. And so the Department of Health and Welfare would be able to oversee that and kind of see, and the Board of Pharmacy, as well as through the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program. So it shines a light on what that's being used for.
Yeah, very good, very good. All right, well, very important stuff here, man. Man, you're doing a lot of work down there. I don't know how much help you need, but if someone wants to help you out or just follow you and support what you're doing, how can we do that? Where can we follow you?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I know I have a Twitter. I just don't know what it's called. I don't really do a whole lot of the social media stuff, just because I try to run bills. But if anyone wants to reach out, I have my email. My state email is jredman@house.idaho.gov. That's a good way to connect with me if you have issues or concerns. But yeah, any kind of support is welcomed, right? Because all these bills will be hotly contested in committee. I mean, there will be hundreds that will sign up in opposition to these. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we will definitely be paying attention to that and put out a call for support whenever you need it and whenever these bills need it. So that's great. Thanks for coming on today, Representative. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. Appreciate you.